get into that, I'd like to just recap a little bit more on the fear of God. Yesterday, or the last time rather, we said that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And I forgot to read out to you the definition that I came across on what the fear of the Lord is. So I'm reading to you. So the fear of the Lord is to revere and to recognize the sovereignty of God. God is sovereign, there's no one above him, and it is for us to recognize that sovereignty and to respect him for who he is. It is to be aware of the divine authority of God. He has authority over all things. Satan may be ruling this dominion, this earthly kingdom, but it is God who has ultimately authority over all. We have to be mindful of God in all things that we do. When we revere God, when we respect God, in order to demonstrate fear of God, we are mindful of God in all that we do, all the decisions that we make, all words that we speak, all actions that we take. Let us always be mindful of how God sees what we do. God knows everything. And finally, not to take lightly the warnings about God's judgment. God said he will judge us. We will reap what we sow. There is a judgment at the end of our stay here in this earthly body on earth. There is a judgment. Do not take lightly the warnings that God has said to us. Those that live in rebellion to him will be sent to the eternal lake of fire if they do not repent before they leave this earthly body. So today the focus is on walking with God in obedience. And obedience, there are a few verses I would like to just share with you on obedience. Before I come to that, let me just say, walking with God means we need to get to know God. We need to get to know God, his ways, his nature, his commandments, and his promises. Now, there are multi-facets to this God that we are serving, but this God has a heart of a father, a loving father, and he's given us wonderful promises of his love and of his protection. We need to know God. That is one of the key things, and I'll speak about more about that next time. But today I'd like to speak about obedience. The word says to us in John 14, verse 15, God said, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. You will lead a life in obedience to my commandments. In 1 Samuel 15, verse 22, we read that obedience is better than sacrifice. Sacrifice could be, in the past, Old Testament times, people were sacrificing animals. But in these days, we may be sacrificing with works, good works that we are doing. The word tells us here that obedience to God's commandments is better than sacrifice. In Proverbs 21, verse 3, we read, to do righteousness and justice is more acceptable to God than sacrifice. This salvation that we're talking about is not